If you can,
There
there.
it is.
All right,
Hello.
great. We are recording. Good morning, everyone. I'm Michelle Beeson. I am 2025 SRCAR president. We have several of our directors, along with our two GADs, on the call today. Like I said before we started recording, our intent for this meeting is just to give you an update of the traveling that we did in Sacramento just 2 weeks ago. So we'll get right into it since we are trying to keep this under an hour. And the first update of travel will go to Mr. Kirk Effinger. Kirk, can you give us your update on the committees that you belong to, please?
Okay, sure. I actually am a member of three different committees at CAR. The first one being local government policy, which uh, the day that we flew in, we had a meeting. Most of it was informational, but there were a few interesting things that came out of it. One of the best ones, in my view, was that there is a pending legislation, AB 739, that would require licensure of homeowner association management companies, which personally I'm very happy to see possibly come down the pike. As I mentioned at the committee meeting, we require dog groomers to have licenses. We require hairdressers to have licenses. We obviously require realtors to have licenses. Why not homeowners association management companies? And even though we're all a little bit skeptical of regulation, this is one area where potentially we'll be able to see some controls put on, so where we don't have arbitrary fees for printing out documents for sale transactions and that sort of thing. So we voted to support that legislation, which is AB 739. Um, we also talked about and are supporting efforts to ask Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to provide a list of approved projects like FHA and VA do, which, especially given what's going on with the balcony thing and all of that, seems to be a good idea. Um, Housing and home ownership had a whole bunch of stuff that they were talking about. Um, One of the things was SB 299, which would prohibit counties, or existing law prohibits counties and cities from passing ordinances within 5 days of introduction. What 299 wanted to amend state law to do was that allow a local ordinance to be passed 5 days after passing, and it would also expedite housing development by eliminating one additional CEQA review that requires locals adopt a new or revised general plan that also requires a zoning update. Long story short, what this does is it takes away a little bit of CEQA power, which anybody that knows me knows that that's my favorite thing to do. Um, the committee voted to support this legislation with and if amended, and the amendment that we asked for was to not allow it to go into effect after 5 days. We felt like that was just too restrictive, and we want to give people an opportunity to review what the law is. In addition, we voted to support SB 722, which supports, or rather, it it eliminates bulk sales to REITs and hedge funds. Uh, Bill would require single-family home, townhome, or condominium construction uh, that is issued a certificate of occupancy on or before January 1, 2026, to be sold to a natural person, essentially banning REITs and hedge funds from buying units historically sold to home buyers. Now, everything I'm telling you here is based at the committee level because some of these things that the committees voted to support, oppose, whatever, uh, that some of those got changed when we got to the board level at CAR. But just to give you an idea what our committees did. Um, then we also voted to support AB 1250, which prohibits ownership of 1,000+ homes by any uh, single entity. This would only apply to ownership of 1,000 homes within California. So if there was an entity that owned properties across the nation, that wouldn't necessarily trigger. And then the one that we voted to oppose was AB 956, which would increase the number of units per single family lot. It would seek to increase the number of detached accessory dwelling units per single family dwelling from one to two, and making the total number of ministerially approved ADUs permitted per parcel to three. And we voted to oppose it. Um, Legislative committee, which I'll get into next, actually voted to put it in a watch category. And if you don't know what those different things mean, there's a variety of different positions that we can recommend, from support to watch to oppose. And in this particular case, we're watching it. It's something that's not immediately on the horizon and may get amended before we uh, get to final legislation. Let's see, and then legislative, we had a whole bunch of uh, different things that we talked about, including starting having a working group to work on the whole situation surrounding the balcony inspections, um, and the fact that there's a lot of discord because we don't know who should be responsible. There's people that would like to push the balcony inspection or the repairs and stuff off to the individual owners. That doesn't seem to be a viable solution. So they've established a working group to try to sort that out. And I think I'll leave the rest for now.
Okay. All right. Michael Percival, Environmental Sustainability and Local Government Policy. Can you give us your updates?
Sure. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Okay, so I'm on three committees also: pro standards, environmental, sustainability. They changed the name from when I was on it before, but environmental sustainability and local government policy committee. Kirk already gave a update on local government. There's one thing I will touch on that was discussed in that is that up in Northern California, they're still having issues with rent control and short-term rentals. So like Airbnb stuff that especially up in the Tahoe area. As far as environmental, there was no action items. I actually missed the meeting due to our when our flight came in and when the meeting was scheduled. But there was no action items that came out of environmental, but there are a long report items just to I'll just go over those real quickly. So, under the climate change and natural hazards, there was discussion on AB or report given on AB 300, Lackey, fire hazard severity zones, state fire marshal. Current law requires the state fire marshal to periodically review areas in the state designated fire hazard severity zone as either moderate high or very high in the state responsibility areas. AB 300 would instead require the state fire marshal to review and classify those zones every 8 years. And CAR has a support position on that. Then next is AB 303. Addis, it's battery energy storage facilities. This bill seeks to restore the authority of local governments to permit battery energy storage systems and establishes a 3,200-foot setback for those systems from sensitive areas such as schools, homes, hospitals, agricultural land, and environmentally sensitive areas. And CAR has a support position on that. Next is AB 434, DeMayo. That's battery energy storage facilities similar to AB 303. This bill prohibits the State Energy Resources Conservation and Development Commission and any other state agency from certifying battery energy storage facilities until 2028. In addition, this bill would require the state fire marshal to adopt guidelines and minimum standards for the construction of battery energy storage facilities to ensure protection of nearby communities from any fire hazards uh, posed by those facilities. CR on that one also takes a support position. Next is AB 1143 Bennett, State Fire Marshal Home Hardening Certification. This bill aims to create a working group of various representatives from multiple organizations to develop a statewide home hardening certification program administered by the State Fire Marshal. CAR is advocating for the inclusion of a Realtor representative in that working group, and CR has a support if amended position on that one. Next is SB 616 Rubio, Community Hardening Commission Wildfire Mitigation Program. Sponsored by the Department of Insurance, SB 616 would establish the Community Hardening Commission within the Department of Insurance to develop new wildfire community hardening standards to reduce fire risk and improve access to liability insurance. The commission would consult with stakeholders and submit recommendations by July 1, 2027. CR has a support position on that. Next, the Board of Forestry and Fire Protection Dispensable Space Zone Zero implementation. In 2025, California Board of Forestry and Fire Protection continued regulatory effects to implement Zone Zero, an ember-resistant area within 5 feet of structures in wildfire-prone areas. The regulation is mandated under AB 3074 which passed in 2020 and further clarified by SB 504 in 2024, which directs the board to develop minimum defensible space standards for that zone zero. And CAR is monitoring the rulemaking process to assess how the regulations may affect property disclosures, landscape standards, and real estate transaction in the wildfire prone areas. And CAR has a watch position on that. Under the environmental, there's several bills that we're watching on that one also. So there's AB 52, uh, California Environmental Quality Act, Native American Resources. This bill would expand the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, to allow Native American tribes to extend the tribal consultation period indefinitely, even after a project has been approved and the construction has already started. Current law allows home builders to start construction project once the formal consultation period with the tribe has ended. These changes in the law could effectively give tribes veto power in determining the future of many development projects in California, and CAR has an opposed position. Next is AB 852, air pollution, water heaters and furnaces. AB 852 would offer homeowners in regional air quality districts that have adopted bans or restrictions on the sale or use of gas-fired appliances to be exempt from these standards if they utilize a propane conversion kit when installing the appliance. And CAR has a favored position on that. Next is SB 232, Ciordo, another CEQA modeling lock-in study. This bill will study the impacts of freezing California Environmental Quality Act regulations to the time that the project was submitted. SB 232 seeks to create a report that looks in depth in the effect of establishing a reasonable review period in which the development could proceed with the CEQA process regardless of the ever-changing modeling and analysis that emerge after a notice of preparation is submitted. And CR has a favor position on that one. Next is SB 282, residential heat pump systems, water heaters, and HVAC installation. This bill would establish a statewide self-certification program for licensed contractors of residential heat pumps, water heaters, and heat pump HVAC systems, in addition to creating a checklist for local jurisdictions to utilize for ensuring the installation of the heat pump, water heaters, and HVAC systems is compliant with the California Building Standard Code, Title 24. Among other provisions, this bill would prohibit local jurisdictions from creating additional standards that would inhibit the installation of a heat pump equipment. CR has a watch position on that. Next is SB 328, hazardous waste generator permits, housing development projects. As introduced, the bill would streamline the permitting process by capping fees within the Department of Toxic Substance Control for infill and master development projects. CR has a favorite position. Next is SB 601, water waste discharge. This bill would expand the water quality permitting requirements. The bill would require any construction on parcels over an acre to apply for and obtain a permit from the State Water Resources Board. In addition, the bill would also vastly expand its existing definition of nexus waters to include particularly all bodies of water, effectively reversing the 2023 U.S. Supreme Court Sackett decision that changed the definition of federal wetlands. The bill would also give private rights of action against anyone violating these new stricter water quality standards, posing serious risk to housing development. And CAR has a opposed position on that. The next one is SB 676, California Environmental Quality, another CEQA, judicial streamlining in areas declared a state of emergency for fires. If any area in California was declared a state of emergency due to wildfires after January 1st, 2025, the bill would establish a judicial review streamlining for legal challenges to rebuild under California CEQA. And CAR has a support position. Um, okay, there's still quite a bit more. You want me to keep going, or
It's up to you if you just want to share the most relevant
I can tell
ones.
you. Well, I'll just read the bill number. So,
Okay.
CAR has taken a support position on AB 295, which is another CEQA bill. Um, AB 462 is a land use coastal development permits for ADUs. CAR has a favor position on that. AB 514 is emergency water supplies. CAR has a support position on that. Uh, AB 1007 is a land use development project review. CR has a support position on that. SB 474 is a state air resources board revocation of regulatory authority. CAR has a favor position on that. Under subdivisions and development, AB 609 is another CEQA. Creates a CEQA exemption. CR has a supportive amended position on that one. SB 31 is a water quality for recycled water. We have a CR has an oppose unless amended position. Um, SB 514 wildfire prevention assessment and accreditation. CR has a favor position on this one. And then SB 607 is a CEQA for exemptions for infill projects, and CR has a support if amended position on that.
Quick
And
question.
that's all the
Yeah.
state. Yeah.
Okay. Quick question. Could you kind of expand? I mean, that was a lot,
Yeah.
right? But you don't typically
There's
have,
always a lot out of
there's always
environmental.
a lot.
There's four issues chairs that go over four different issues categories, and that's why there's so much that comes out of environmental.
Okay. So if for anyone who's thinking about getting involved, eventually traveling, joining committees like this, does anyone before we move on have any questions for Kirk or Mr. Percival? Speak now or forever hold your peace. No, it doesn't look like it. Okay, thank you so much, gentlemen, for that update. Miss Teresa, you are next.
Hey, good morning, everybody. So I'll be reporting on Professional Standards Committee, and we didn't have any action items or anything to vote on that came out of that committee, but just some of the highlights, statewide and what they're seeing. So the procuring cause that we used to have a lot of hearings on over who actually brought the client, that is kind of non-existent right now because of the BRBC. If you mark it exclusive, There still might be procuring cause issues on non-exclusive BRBCs, where then obviously the buyer can go with more than one agent. But right now, yeah, procuring cause is kind of not being seen. And then the top violations that they are seeing is advertising. Most common is agents are not sure on the rules of advertising, so that's a real common violation. Article 1, which is promoting the best interests of your client and treating all people fairly and honestly in the deal. And the third one is all agreements must be in writing. So those are our top three violations. Some other things we talked about was when a buyer's agent asks the listing agent for confirmation that their offer was presented, that is a MLS rule that if it's you ask for it, that you have to supply it. The listing agent has to supply it. Other agents' use of videos on social media without permission. They're just taking a video and using it for advertising without asking. Representing yourself as a buyer, you have to disclose that on your offer that you are the representing yourself. Let's see, altering photos and staging, that had a pretty long conversation. And the gist of it is you have to have a caption. If you're going to do anything to the photo in any way, enhance it, change it, add furniture, whatever you're doing, you have to include a caption saying that it's been altered. And even your photographer photos, they said that sometimes they go a little beyond just editing the photos. So make sure you look through your photographer's photos. Also, some of those might need to be captioned. Advertising on social media, everybody's gotten kind of pretty good at putting their name and their DRE number, but it also requires the name of your broker, the name of your firm. So when you're putting something out there as a realtor, even if it's a comment as a realtor, you need to have your firm name, your DRE number. Always get permission from another agent before putting something out there on social media. And they said theoretically, once a house is sold, we should be going back and deleting from social media our posts about that property being for sale, because it's no longer for sale, and it stays out there on social media forever. So I found that one. I never even thought about that, but we should be deleting posts about homes after they've sold. Off-market marketing stuff on social media without a listing agreement is still a violation. You can't put it on there coming soon if you don't have a listing agreement signed. Bad-mouthing realtors on social media. Obviously, we should all know that that's not allowed. That's definitely violations. But you can also be violated if you like it. If somebody says something derogatory about another agent and you comment or you like it, you actually could be a violation as well. So kind of interesting stuff that comes up. Exclusive listings. If a seller calls you and their house is currently listed on an exclusive listing, basically, yes, you can talk to them if they call you. You cannot go after sellers if their house is listed, but if they call you and have questions about, not about the agent or how they're doing their job, but other questions, you can take that call. Some revisions coming up to MLS policies. I think Pauline's going to get into that on the MLS policy update that she's going to give. Listing agents asking for the BRBC. You do not have to give your BRBC to the listing agent, but there's really no reason not to. If they ask for it, you can send it over unless your brokerage has a rule against that. But a lot of listing agents are asking for copies of your BRBC. And that's kind of everything that we kind of discussed at that meeting.
Okay, thank you, Teresa.
Welcome.
Pauline, you're up.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. Pauline Wolke. So I'm going to just kind of piggyback right up with Teresa about that, the buyer broker agreement. So that is a lot of discussion in regards to how we are monitoring and who is monitoring the BRBC and the commission and so forth. So that is kind of, actually, I went to the legal, and one of the things, and they actually posted on their social media, SRCAR Legal, if you guys follow that on Instagram, they have kind of good little notes and updates of things. And they just posted this yesterday that the the amount of commission in the BRBC is less than what is being requested in the offer to purchase, which is the 3G3. Remember, the buyers are representing the commission owed to their broker and the BRBC at least as much as the amount being requested from the seller in the RPA. If that is not true, the seller has no obligation to pay anything. So that is in our agreements that we have. And so there's lots of discussion about who is going to be looking at if they're matching. Is it SRCAR or not? So there was a lot of discussions in regards to that. Michael Boma and I went to the broker exchange, and that was a topic. Another topic that they're discussing right now, and I believe they're having a task force, is about TCs and their duties. Licensed and unlicensed TC. Joanne, 2 thumbs up, got it. So that is a discussion in regards to that, because I don't know if you guys noticed, but a lot of TCs do a lot of work, and so I think they're trying to make it clear of who's the agent and who's the TC. Another thing that they discussed in our buyer broker agreement, and I think believe in legal, is that they are putting a subcommittee with SRCAR regarding licensing. So licensing, they're going to be taking a look at it, and so maybe things might change. I don't know what's required. So so they are looking at licensing requirements right now on the subcommittee at the SRCAR level. So I serve on 4 different committees. I serve on the MLS policy. I am an NAR director. I serve on the RPAC fundraising and mobility. And I serve on the SPF as a regional rep. And I'm also the regional vice chair for our region. When we go up to SRCAR, we are in a region. We're region 14. And our region encompasses Idlewild and Inland Valley Association. So we're all together, and we sit together at our caucuses and talk about kind of all the meetings and all the issues that are going on. So to give a little explanation of that. So on my fundraiser, the FAM committee, which is kind of the RPAC fundraising, first off, I would strongly suggest donating at least $20. Not only does it help statewide, but it also really helps our local side. The higher percentage we get, the higher percentage we get back. So if you guys haven't seen, this came out a couple months ago. If you guys haven't received this talks about all of the amazing things that SRCAR does to not only help ourselves in our industry, but also our clients and property rights. So it's a really valuable investment to make, and I strongly encourage it. There is no action items, but the FAM committee is discussing and proposing on increasing our dues increase, not our dues increase, but the increasing of the allocation of those funds, and actually diversifying. There's three different accounts it goes to, and changing the percentages of those accounts as well. So, but that's just discussions right now. Let's see. Also there is a broker certificate. So if anybody here is a broker and you wanted to become certified for like an RPAC, you would just have to do four or five simple things. Encourage all your agents to vote, conduct voter registration for clients, participate in red alerts, asked people to sign up for red alerts. And if you guys haven't signed up for red alerts, all you have to do is text Realtor to 30644 to sign up for those red alerts. And then good old MLS. So this, Teresa, pop in anytime you want. So MLS committee I've been on this committee for several years, and it's actually one of my favorite ones, I guess. But obviously in California, there's several different MLSs. So we have several different opinions about how MLSs conduct and do their business. So each MLS has different rules that we have to follow. So I don't know if anyone has really followed the news, but NAR has made a change in how a seller has a choice on submitting to the MLS or not to the MLS. So with that said, they have option number 3 now, which is the delay marketing exempt listing, um, which is pretty much where a brokerage can or the seller has a choice with their brokerage not to submit in the MLS. So NAR made this rule. I'm going to put in the chat some links, so if you guys want to read more on it, but NAR .facts has a lot of information on there as well. Can you repeat number? Oh, the number for the red alerts is 30644, and I'll put that also in the chat as well. But anyway, so the MLS, our MLS committee had a motion come to the floor to have NAR revise or re-look at their position of that rule of only allowing exempt. Is that pretty much correct? So this was a big discussion. It came out of the MLS committee, and from there, it goes into the executive committee. And at the executive committee, I was, being a regional vice chair, I get the opportunity to sit in on those meetings. And when they started discussing this motion that came forward before it goes onto the big BOD floor, we were kicked out because I'm a regional and not an executive. And they told us, oh, just sit in the hallway. Well, sat in the hallway and waited, and they had their legal team come in and discussed it for over 3.5 hours. So CR does their due diligence, making sure that, they're looking at it, all the options and so forth. And they kind of just changed their wording on the committee's proposed, and it went to the big BOD floor. There was a lot of people who went up to the mic to discuss their concerns about this, whether to or not to ask NAR to reconsider their evaluation on it. And it ultimately ended up passing to ask NAR to reconsider. And I think Mike has the exact votes, but I think it was by like 50. That's how close it was.
Mm-hmm.
So that, and let me see, what else do I have? I had so many notes. So I did attend 18 meetings, just to let you guys all know. So we're over there doing a lot of stuff. We had amazing meetings with our legislators that our GAD put together, Juracy, with Kelly, and with
Kate Sanchez.
Kate Sanchez. So those were great meetings. If you do pay $4.49, you get to go to the Capitol reception, where you get to, rub shoulders with other assemblymen and senators. And we did get to actually meet Jeff Gonzalez as well during that realtor or the Capitol reception. So that was great conversations. I think Mike and him hit it off and talked a lot. So, so we're out there doing a lot locally and statewide. And thanks for your support on allowing me to go. So.
Okay, thank you, Pauline. Mr. Boma, can you please give us your updates?
Of course. Thank you for allowing me to be here. For those of you that don't know, my name is Michael Boma. I am one of your board of directors. However, I am not a CAR director, and you don't have to be in order to be a committee member. So I have the privilege of sitting on 3 different committees at CAR, Fair Housing and Diversity, Diversity Forum, and Forum on Forms. So I'll be reporting on those in addition to reporting on the fair housing policy, because you find that a lot of times your meetings may conflict, but again, you do also have some free time, so you're allowed to go into any open meetings. And I find it very fascinating. As Pauline said, we attended the broker exchange, which was always a really good dynamic conversation. So let's start with piggybacking on what Pauline just said about NAR's position at Fair Housing and Diversity Forum. That was discussed and it was brought up, and a motion was made to go ahead and move that forward through up to CAR to go ahead and ask for some modifications. And that was, again, a heated, long conversation as well. So again, some of the committees do kind of intertwine and work together to try to move a motion. Other than that, let's see here. Let's briefly talk about diversity. Diversity was actually, we broke out into individual groups because what diversity has been tasked with is CARs taking a position that everything that we do as realtors should be inclusive and because we do serve a very diverse group of people, especially in California. So they wanted to come back and CAR tasked diversity with coming up with other ways of saying basically that we are diverse, we're, equality and inclusion without actually using those words. So it was a very interesting conversation. And we put together quite a bit of recommendations. They'll be taking that back to CAR. They're going to digest it. And then we are actually meeting on the 21st of this month via Zoom at 11 a.m. So we'll get some more information on all of that really good work. As far as Fair Housing Policy Committee, there were two motions that carried that CAR would support AB 1244, which is WIX, that was basically to generate 50% of the funds generated by the vehicle miles traveled would become an in lieu fee, and that would go to the California Dream for All Equity Sharing Down Payment Assistance Program. The other support bill, if amended, was AB 595, which is Carrillo, and that is to encourage additional basically to help create generational wealth in low and moderate income families by giving them some additional how did they frame this? Basically, incentives to help them recoup some of their investments into their property over the lifetime that they own it, especially if it's deeded like low income, then they wanted to be able to recoup so that they create generational wealth. So that was really interesting. Moving on to Form on Forms. That one's always a great committee. If you guys have any recommendations for any changes that you want to see to your forms or any additional forms you would like to see, please go ahead and send them to me via email, and I'm more than happy to present those to the committee. But we have a lot of interesting things coming down the pipeline. For instance, the new zip form version is coming out this summer. It's going to be called Transact. Don't worry, for those of you that are used to WIN forms, it's not going away anytime soon, but it will probably sunset in about a year and a half, and you will be forced to use Transact at that time. So get ready to be trying out the new platform. And that'll be exciting. For the property managers in the room, your updates were already received in April. June, obviously, is when we see more additional updates coming out. We have a couple new forms coming. We have an amendment to a prior disclosure statement that's coming out. That will be a brand new form, as well as a generic addendum form. Those will be new. And I believe they're doing another buyer early occupancy. The other thing that was a little heated, and we're waiting on further instruction, because what happens is Form on Forms, just so those of you that know, we talk and then they go into a closed meeting, usually the same day, later on in the afternoon, and they go into a closed meeting where they actually discuss all of the things that we kind of talked about, and then they're the ones that make the decision on recommendations to the forms. So one of the things that they are looking at is possibly removing 3G3, where it says that the buyer affirms. And that is obviously it was a very heated conversation, but they did vote to move it forward, to take it to that closed group. We're just waiting to hear what came out of that closed group and whether or not they're going to keep it or whether they'll strike it out in the June forms. And I think I'm trying to be quick because I want to be respectful of everybody's time. I think those were the biggies out of the meetings that I attended.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Joanne, I see you asked a question and Pauline answered it. So did you see that in the chat? Oh, you're muted. Yeah. Okay.
I just put in the chat too about CR, just to piggyback on this MLS thing. CRMLS has came out. I don't know if you guys noticed when you log in that they are not adopting the NAR rule. There is a really great video I watched. I I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before, but I just put in the link that kind of explains the reason why they're not adopting it. They already have options. So I put that in the chat for you.
Yeah, and I also provided a link in yesterday's president's message about the fact that CRMLS is not adopting it and the reasons why. There's a link that goes directly to CRMLS's opinion as to why. So that was on my list to talk about as well. So even though all of this is going on at NAR, CRMLS was very clear that they already have that covered, they feel, in our options. They will not be adopting it. And it's not, for those of you who are brokers on the call, they are insistent that doesn't affect your insurance or anything like that that might be provided. So we are all good. I am going to be reporting on risk management. And typically, risk management is where we all get together and we talk about the most common issues, upcoming issues. Rarely do we have action items out of risk management. So in some of it, one thing you'll find if you do decide to get involved and start traveling and joining committees is there's overlap, right? We talk about the same subject, in different committees. So sometimes I also belong to I don't belong to transaction regulatory, but I attended it. So I kind of combined the two big issues into one report here. The most important thing that they talked about was the fact that many of you have probably noticed that we've got now millions of acres that were not previously in a high fire zone or very high. And now they have done all the remapping and now they are. So what do you do when you are in the middle of a transaction and you have an NHD that says it's not in a high fire zone? And then you discover during the transaction that it's been remapped and it is now in a high fire zone. So here's what we need to know. First off, the listing agent and the seller have no obligation per our contract to investigate whether or not things have changed, right? So if you have an NHD that says no, do you have an obligation as a listing agent or a seller to make sure that your map did not get rezoned? No, you don't. As a buyer's agent, it's recommended to monitor it, right? Because you are there to recommend your buyer. So these are just some best practices. However, if you're a listing agent or a seller and you discover that you've been rezoned and now are in a higher, very high zone, you now have an obligation because of the knowledge to redisclose the fact that now it's been remapped. And again, this will go away soon, but it's for those transactions that maybe you ordered your NHD at listing and now it's different. So we're going to have a couple months here of a flux situation with this. But if you discover during an escrow, you do have an obligation to disclose it. This is going to trigger the need for the FHDS form. So now you're going to have to provide the form and the buyer will now have a 5-day right of, contingency and will be able to back out if they don't like the information. So that's about it on that rezoning. It's going to be a little bit messy for a couple months until we work our way through the existing escrows going on. Most common issues are the BRBC issues, and Pauline already mentioned it, but they did discuss the fact that if you are representing a buyer and you have an agreement for X amount and you ask for more, right? Then what's on your BRBC or whatever form you have? And it's discovered that you have, we were using bananas in the meeting because we want to be careful for, not violating any things. But if you have a buyer representation agreement for 2 bananas and you write in the contract that the seller pay you 3 bananas, the seller, if that's discovered, has 0 obligation to pay you at all. And a lot of people don't understand that. I believe it's paragraph 13 or 14 in the agreement. So just keep that in mind, guys. For those of you who are brokers, I know it's really hard to get information, get your agents to pay attention, but I see it all the time where they're writing more. I don't know their reasoning for that, but we have to make sure that we are not writing it for more than what we have in our agreement, because then they could walk away with nothing. That's a potential. There are a lot of issues still, and they're still working through buyers having multiple BRBCs. And I can't tell you more clearly that if a buyer comes to you, no matter what their excuse is, if they don't like their agent, they don't this, they don't that, you can ask to see a copy of their representation agreement. If it's exclusive, back away. Just back away. And it seems like that's coming up a lot. People are thinking, because it wasn't a broker involved property, they're thinking there's all these workarounds. The workarounds don't exist. If they have an exclusive agreement with somebody else, you can instruct them that you cannot work with them until this agreement either expires or is canceled. Other than that, let me see. There are a lot of there's some regulations that are coming down the pike that we expect to be resolved in fall. For those of you who are aware, the law and the settlement agreement don't exactly match up with all of the terms, right? So we've got the settlement agreement basically requires that we have an agreement prior to showing a property, whereas the law says we need to have an agreement prior to writing an offer. That's one of the issues. They are trying to marry the two situations. So they're trying to marry the agreement and the law so they are actually consistent. And thank you, Mike. Mike said RPA paragraph 18A2 is where you find that, where you don't have to pay if the BRBC is different. So they're working on that. Stay tuned for that. We should have those regulations in place within the fall, and that will put everybody, realtors and non-realtors, on the absolute most even playing field that we can. We've already talked about, several of us have talked about the BRBC, presenting it with the offer. So I won't go into too much detail on that. Just know that there is no requirement to present it. There is conflicting advice, even within CAR themselves, as to whether or not the listing agent should review it and confirm that the amounts match. There's valid arguments on both sides. So just stay tuned. Myself personally, I'm okay with not reviewing it. I think they're certifying in the RPA that it is, that's what it is, and escrow will check it. But where the issue comes, we're good in Southern California. I think in escrow is reviewing them, they're confirming, they're asking for the proof that what they are getting paid is what they're supposed to get paid. But apparently in Northern California, it's a little less consistent. So that's why the discussion is so heated. But in the meantime, they're working on it. It could change. So like my colleagues have said, that is in a lot of discussions right now. The last thing I'll talk about, and then I'll give a really quick update from the DRE, because we did have several executives from the DRE have a forum and they gave some good information. But the last thing we'll talk about is when you have local ordinances, there's a lot of questions on what a realtor's obligation is to know about those local ordinances. Like, for example, in our area, the local vegetation ordinances and like Duluth and things like that, right? What is our obligation as agents to know about these ordinances? Well, the RPA, just so you know, says we are not expected to know that. And the RPA also defers the responsibility of knowing and discovering that to the buyer. So as a realtor, you really don't have an obligation to know this. That being said, as always, if you know something, you now have an obligation to disclose. So you do not need to investigate if you're unaware. You can ask a simple question of the seller, but you do not have an obligation to find that out because the buyer is taking the responsibility on. So for those of you representing buyers, keep that in mind. They have a responsibility to investigate things like that as well. So that's it for risk management. Again, there were a lot of things, but most of them have already been covered. The DRE, I just took a couple notes that I think are important for you to know. They did a lot of talking. They're doing a lot of revamping. They've redone the testing effective in March. So your real estate licensor testing is completely different now. It's all been updated. one thing that they said, the first thing they said is, remember, we are a consumer protection agency. So their primary goal is to protect the consumer basically from us, right? So they handle all of that. That's why they handle the licensing. Their primary goal is consumer protection. As of March, our licensing population is steady. So we really haven't seen a big decline in licensing as of March, of licensees in the state as of March. There has been a significant increase in DRE complaints, though. So they're seeing more complaints nowadays than they've seen in a very long time. The biggest in audits, so if we go on to audits, 75% of their audits, guys, are in property management. So good luck to you who do property management. It's not fun. So that's where the majority of the audits lie, is within property management. And the most common violations in resulting in an audit are trust fund violations. And also, yeah, that's it. Most of them are trust fund handling. And in property management, we don't do property management, so I can't speak to it in any kind of expert way. But the accounting is difficult. They expect it to be done a lot differently than what might make sense. So that is it for me on that regard. I am going to turn it over to our GADs, Darissy and Justin.
Okay, I am going to share my screen if it will let me.
Oh, maybe Justin, you need to make her like a host.
Yeah, Justin's not letting me share my PowerPoint.
Yeah. In the meantime, Darissy, do you want to talk about, that how we can take guests to Sacramento while Justin's working on that?
Yeah, so every year we have the SRCAR scholarship that opens up, I want to say about March, and we have a couple of scholars here with us today. It's a quick overnight trip where you fly up the first day. Typically, Ledge Day is Wednesday, so you'd fly up on a Tuesday. And the first day is kind of like our travel day, and then the second day we have meetings with our senators and assembly members. And then also we have our morning briefing, which we will go over the hot issues here briefly once I can get our PowerPoint up.
Is it letting you share it yet?
No, it won't let me share it.
You're going to send it over to Justin?
Yeah, I can send it over.
Michelle, I was going to ask if I could just mention to everyone that Reimagine is coming up in September, and it's in Chula Vista at the new Gaylord Hotel. So there's going to be the paid pre-conference days on the 15th of September, and then the free days are the 16th and 17th. We also have our business meetings at that time. So if you will strongly suggest to go to some of these meetings as well as the Reimagine meetings as well. That's great info, and maybe it'll get you to volunteer.
Yeah, no, it's great.
And the registration is open for it. It just opened up a few days ago, and I'll put that in the link as well for it.
And it is a brand new resort that opens this weekend.
Yeah. It'll be fresh. No worn carpet, anything like that. So.
Michelle?
Yeah, it looks nice.
Yes, Kirk.
I'd like to mention real briefly that I mentioned earlier that some of the things that our various committees voted to either approve or oppose or whatever go up to vote to the full SRCAR board, and two of the items that actually got overturned at that level. One was the proposed legislation to prohibit REITs and hedge funds from purchasing new construction for 5 years. That motion that was defeated, and also the one that prohibits ownership of 1,000+ homes was defeated. So just so you know, even if we do something in committee, it's the whole board that still has the final say.
And some of those votes were very close.
Yes, they were.
Derisi, go ahead.
Okay, awesome. Good morning. I am Derisi. I am your Government Affairs Director. We also have Justin McEwen here as well. He's our Government Affairs Manager. And we're going to give a brief update on the hot issues for Ledge Day. Justin, can you get to the next screen?
Yeah, you're
I
gonna
am
have to.
trying.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the one for us. We oppose AB 647, which would have allowed up to 8 units on any single family parcel. This would have been a drastic change from current zoning. Also, this would be approved ministerially without public hearing or discretion, meaning neighborhoods wouldn't have a voice. So current law allows up to only 3 units, a primary home, an ADU, and a junior ADU. This bill would have doubled that. We oppose this because obviously this would disrupt our neighborhoods, but thankfully with so many realtors in town traveling to Sacramento, this bill was pulled from the Assembly Local Government Committee, a major grassroots win. This was pulled before we even got to Ledge Day, so this was a huge one for us.
That just shows the power of what we can do when we do this. So.
Correct. And then for AB 1007, this one is we are obviously in support of. It helps permit streamlining for housing projects. Currently, the Permitting Streamline Act is not even. For lead agencies, they are on a 40-day clock for the cities and counties. But for the responsible agencies such as state and regional, they get a 90 days. So this bill, why it matters, it'll help streamline that process. It'll remove any unnecessary delays, as well as keeps multiple agencies accountable, helping housing get built faster. So this one is currently in the Assembly Appropriations Committee, as well as AB 1276. This one pertains to regulatory certainty for housing projects. This bill is going to help strengthen the Housing Accountability Act by applying reasonable person standards to state and regional agencies. It's going to help prevent agencies from shifting the goalposts per se after a project has already submitted its preliminary application, and it'll give developers more certainty and legal clarity. This one is waiting to be heard by the Appropriations Committee. And then SB 489, this one's for permit transparency. It's going to help those, the transparency between required state and regional agencies to post those application requirements online and make sure decisions fall under shot clocks, the deadlines for approval. It's going to also help eliminate any confusion and red tape and improve government accountability in the permitting process. This one has passed the key committees already and is heading to the Senate floor. And then for AB 610, this is to stop new anti-housing rules after housing plans have already been approved. It's going to prevent the old bait and switch tactics from local governments. It's going to create a stable, predictable environment for housing developers and ensures local governments stick to their approved plans. This one is obviously supported by CAR and because it encourages housing growth and protecting accountability. And this one is also as well as in the Assembly Appropriations Committee. And then for AB 712, this one helps legal enforcement of housing laws. And it's going to allow housing advocates and developers to recover those legal fees when they win cases against local governments who have illegally blocked housing. It also prohibits cities from forcing developers to cover the city's legal costs when even though the city will be at fault. And it extends those enforceable provisions of the Housing Accountability Act to other key housing laws as well. So this can help discourage cities from violating the state law and levels the playing field and helps get more housing built by making the system more fair. This one has also passed the Assembly and is now awaiting Senate committee assignment.
Next, we have AB 1157, which we oppose. This is an expansion of extreme rent control, which of course we're opposing rent control. But this would have made permanent statewide rent control on nearly all rental housing, including single-family homes, ADUs, condos as well. This misses the mark because the real issue is lack of supply, not rent levels. This would have discouraged investment, drive out small landlords, and make it harder to finance new rental developments. So CAR also strongly opposed this bill. But the good news is that it's dead for the year, but we'll stay alert if it returns next session. And a quick little recap of our attendees. We have our CR directors and scholars who made it up to Sacramento for a quick, well, our scholars came up for a quick day, Tuesday to Wednesday. Tuesday is the CR block party. That's kind of like where we see all of our senators and assembly members. They come join, hang out with the realtors, kind of loosen up a little bit. And then also the next day we go back to business. In this photo, we have Senator Ciarto. We have actually, we use the boardroom in the CR building in Sacramento. And then he took us onto the Senate floor for a quick photo opportunity. And we also have a special guest with us today. We have our VP of CAR, Jennifer Speck, here with us. Jennifer, if you want to chime in here. Next, we also had our meeting with Assemblywoman Kate Sanchez. Thank you to our VP at CAR, Jennifer Speck, for hosting us because we were not able to be in that boardroom without her.
You are very welcome, Darcy, and Sarah really does appreciate the collaboration with your staff, both Darcy and Justin, throughout the week to help manage where your members were going, to ensure that we were as most effective as we could be with respect to the advocacy efforts that did lead to bills being pulled in live time. I am proud to say that I've worked on a variety of pieces of legislation that were part of the hot issues, both on the support and opposition side. And we could not do this without the professional staff support that we receive from our local associations. And so I want to acknowledge their efforts in helping to prepare you for the week, as well as to help manage your schedules throughout that week. In addition, I also want to note that the Board of Directors did decide to sponsor legislation with respect to SB 410. SB 410 does seek to require homeowners associations to include within the suite of documents that are required to be transmitted to a seller upon request the balcony inspection that was mandated in 2018. They have also directed staff to amend that piece of legislation to also include a cover sheet for those balcony inspections that have a general summary of what is included in the repairs or what the shape is of those balconies or wood-based structures. As Kirk had indicated earlier, there was a lot of discussion. We did have a final working group report that was offered during the Board of Directors meetings last week. That working group is completed, but I am excited to let you know that we are going to be doing an issues briefing paper that your CAR Board of Directors members will come back and talk to you about what the decision is with respect to the liability and bifurcating that from the CC&Rs. As many of you know that live in HOAs or manage properties or are selling properties within those spaces, the liability for balcony inspections is an exemption that we can do from the critical repair definition offered by the federal government. And so in order to facilitate transactions within homeowners associations, we are looking at drafting an additional paper to have further dialogue. There has also been a lot of robust conversation about licensee responsibility. AB 739 would require homeowners association managers in that same vein to also be licensed real estate licensees and subject to the same oversight and inspection requirements by the Department of Real Estate, similar to the way that Michelle noted that property managers are subject to that requirement. And so lots happened last week. Darcy and Justin asked me to be here today to be available if you had any questions on the policy actions or any of the hot issues that were available. I'm elated to be here. I do see that my boss, Sanjay Wagle, who is my chief lobbyist, will be in your area in June. By the way, he really likes the heat, so I'm really hoping for 100 plus down there, so make that happen for me. In addition to that, anything we can do to help you. As a reminder, I also work on our Realtor Party activities, and without your investments in our Realtor Party major investor programs offered by NAR, we would not be able to be as successful at helping those become elected that have realtor mindsets, entrepreneurial spirit, and the opportunity for home ownership to remain available in the state of California. And I want to thank each and every one of you that is a major investor like myself. I am a President Circle Sterling R, and I invite you to also invest and join me at President Circle next year. I believe it's going to be in Vegas, so we could all have a really good time. Thank you, Darcy. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you, Jennifer. So we haven't RSVP'd for our June 16th meeting with Sanjay Wagle. Scan the QR code or send Justin an email. And thank you, everybody, for being here. Our emails are on the screen. Call our office, whatever you need. The staff is here to support you.
Okay, great. We just went a little over. That's great. In the meantime, I know Darcy started to speak to it, but We do take guests to Sacramento every year. There are scholarships available for that. We even have people who have come once on scholarship and have gone on their own dime as well. Helen has joined us today, and I'm wondering, Helen, if you will just take this last couple minutes to let us know about your experience and what experiencing Sacramento felt like to you and what it's done for your career and your desire to move forward with the association. So,
Um, because last year was I saw it on the CAR website, so I applied. So I got to go the first time last year. But I understand the importance of the Realtor Action Fund. Now that's why I like the LGR, I like the PAC, and I just like all the politics of it because it really does make a difference for the people that we serve. And if we're not the voice for them, how are we going to help them? So
great.
I'm
So,
very grateful for the opportunity.
well, we're so grateful you're so involved in that you go and just really have that desire to serve your clients, your community, your colleagues. So,
Well, in commercial real estate, it makes more difference than ever. And I work with developers. So I just like to always know before I have a challenge.
excellent. Okay, everyone, that's it for us. We will kind of keep, if you weren't monitoring the chat, there are a ton of helpful links in there. So we won't close out the entire meeting for a good, Justin, can you keep it open for a good 5 minutes just to give everyone a chance to grab those documents in the chat links? And we are available. If anyone has any questions, we are all here. You can reach out to us anytime, and keep reading those president's messages because we have a lot of really important events coming up. And we would love to see all of your faces there. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. Again, thanks for all the hard work
Thanks,
of our
everyone.
directors and our GADs that, make all of this possible. So have a good one, everyone.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer, for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer. That was great.
You are so incredibly welcome. It's real hard for me to say no to Dorissy and Justin. So when
I
they ask, I
bet.
try to show up. Except when I get pneumonia. When I get pneumonia, it's not my fault.
You don't really have a choice at that point.
No, the doctors in the hospital told me no. But generally speaking, I gotta tell you, you've got a great set of staff, and we really appreciate their opportunity to reach out to us and act as key components to help connect you to your members as well as to connect you to us. And we just can't recognize them enough as well as the opportunity to connect with what is turning out to be mods in your area from the legislative perspective. And I know that the state has shifted as we've got a 2/3 supermajority, and those mods, both on the REAP and DEM side, that are starting to come out of your area, are vital to our success up here as well. And so I really appreciate the relationship building that is happening down there, and it's a big critical key to our success as a state.
Okay, well, thank you.
Well,
We appreciate it.
You're
I'm
welcome.
glad you're feeling better, and I hope we get a rain check because we would love to have you down.
I know, but you already got my boss. Like you got the bigger guy. Like, what do you?
I know,
You
but
skipped
okay.
me.
But your podcast with you and him was fantastic, and I love that you guys did that live. That was fantastic.
Thank you. That one should be coming out soon, I think, to be able to share more globally. And I think it went better than I expected. I will tell you, I was frightened to get on that stage myself. So,
Oh, you're such a fantastic speaker, though.
oh yeah, no, I wanted to throw up the whole time. I think I stopped wanting to throw up as I left the stage, but that was a nerve-wracking. I've never been on a stage with that many people, so that was a first.
Well, I thought you did fantastic.
Thank you so much. It was actually in the end kind of fun, especially when obviously I'm not very good at not being anything but my authentic self.
Right.
And I wasn't sure how the comment that came into my brain and came out my mouth was going to be taken when I made the comment about my children being essentially my test dummies.
That's all good.
And people took it the way it was intended, which is, I really do use them as the guinea pigs, and people I think generally connected with that as poor children.
Okay. Well, we appreciate you taking the time to come here. It was a great addition. I love the fact, just you speak so strongly and with such authority. It's just wonderful to have you there and make things so clear. So we greatly appreciate it.
Thank you. And if ever I'm not clear, make sure to stop me.
Okay.
I have a tendency to wax poetic and be super nerdy, but no, I will do my best to make arrangements with Dorissy and Justin for a potential future event. But I know that since you guys have Sanjay coming down, and again, that man really does like the heat. He's a more heat person than I am anyway.
Okay.
But I'll connect with Justin and Dorissy to see if we can't get something maybe in the fall when things kind of slow down and I'm down in the LA region anyway.
Oh, I love that.
Wanted to interrupt because Audra's got a question here.
Yeah, Audra.
Hi guys. Being on this call and multitasking at my desk and opening mail and so forth. I have a sincere I just so badly want to shake the house down. What we have these water issues in California still, and we have these HOAs that will not budge from their old ways of you must have lawn. And is there anything that we can do to petition and help homeowners be allowed to put in xeriscape landscaping with drought tolerant? I mean, we see this so well executed, in Palm Springs. I mean, just everywhere you go in Palm Springs, it's gorgeous xeriscapes. And so it can be well done, but these going through my neighborhood, I live in a beautiful gated community, and we have a hard time in the summertime to keep our grass green.
Yeah.
So it looks like heck, and we pay through the nose for this, for our notices that we get that we're not doing enough watering, and then we get the other notices of quit watering.
Yeah.
They actually can't fine you for it. State law actually was handled during the last drought. And let me start with, I'm not a lawyer.
Okay.
I just pretend to be one during the statutory development process. Not really. I'm very clear that I'm not a lawyer. But what I will tell you is that in early 2012, 13, 14, there was legislation that was approved and signed into law that said that during states of emergency and drought, you cannot fine homeowners for their grass being brown because they are responding to another call for action in conservancy, and that is an inappropriate fining authority by the HOA. There was also legislation enacted during that time about being able to put in fake turf.
Yeah.
And things of that nature, and the xeriscape landscaping, especially when you're talking about what they call PUDs, where you've got single family homes that are managed in a master plan community, right? Where it's about your front yard. The problem is HOA managers are not subject to any licensing or oversight. And so the only way to force an HOA to comply with state law and to stop them from basically nannying your landscape that's the state already says that you should have xeriscape anyway and pay attention to what your environmental conditions are. You have to sue them. You can't go and complain to DRE. You can't go complain to CFPB. You can't go and complain to any other licensing entity. The only thing that Davis Sterling gives you as an opportunity is to sue. And what happens, unfortunately, and it's the same thing we see in the balcony situation, is the HOA management gets to hide behind the reserves of the HOA itself. And so they will wait out until the homeowner that is suing and who is upset and wanting to have the architectural review and alteration, they'll wait until you run out of money, which is why the Homeownership Housing Working Group within the Homeownership Housing Committee decided that we need to advance legislation and support it to require condo managers to also be licensed so that situations like this, you can go to the site and fine authority of DRE instead of having to go through a civil nightmare to do it. I would suggest, if you have the opportunity, if you live in one of these or you've got friends that are in one of them, see if you can't petition the architectural review to give you the authority. And if they don't, send that to me, because that will help me with some of the other advocacy efforts that I have to point out that this isn't just about balconies. This is about so many other things within Davis Sterling that HOA management has decided that they get to be the dictator for. And the management company likes to say, oh, it's the HOA board. Let's be real. We all know how this works. With an HOA board, those are a conglomerate of property owners that live in there. They are not experts on property management, and they do defer and look to the professional management that they have hired to advise them as to what the appropriate activity is and what is legally permitted, because they're also the one that pays for the lawyer. So, anything you have to demonstrate that there's bad actors out there that are not listening to homeowners, let me know and send it to me. My Justin and Dorissy can get you in contact with me, or they can facilitate the information. And I'd love to have anything you got, because you guys have a lot of HOAs down there.
Yeah, we do. All right. Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to have that discussion.
Great
Awesome.
conversation.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Feel free to reach out.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer.